Seriya was not like the others. She was born in the ice lands of planet Valtrax, trained from a young age to fight, to obey, and to never feel weakness. Emotion was forbidden. Attachment was weakness. Love was death. Her people, the Varnari, believed strength came only from control, and Seriya was their strongest warrior. But all that changed the moment her ship exploded over a strange blue planet called Earth. She had been on a mission. Something secret. Something dangerous. Then, a missile hit her ship. Fire. Screams. Darkness. And then, cold wind and snow. When she opened her eyes, she was lying in a thick forest, her leg broken. Blood leaking from her side. Her armor cracked open. She was alone. She should have died. Maybe it would have been better if she had. But fate had something else planned. A man found her. A human. He was tall, with a short beard and quiet eyes. His clothes were worn, and he had a strange smell. Like metal, fire, and warmth. She tried to push herself up to fight him, but pain shot through her body. She fell again. "Don't move," he said calmly. "You're badly hurt." His voice didn't sound like a soldier's. It didn't carry fear or power. It carried concern. Seriya hated that sound. She didn't want pity. She was not weak. "Leave me," she growled, baring her sharp teeth. "You're nothing. You're just a human." "I may be nothing," he replied, bending down beside her, "but I'm not heartless." Before she could stop him, he wrapped her in his jacket, lifted her off the cold ground and carried her through the woods. She blacked out. When Seriya woke again, she was in a strange wooden structure, a cabin. Soft light came from a fire. The air was warm and something smelled like cooked meat. Her body ached, but the bleeding had stopped. Clean bandages covered her wounds. Her broken leg was supported with a splint. Her armor was gone. She sat up in panic. "Where is it?" she shouted. "You were dying," the human said, stepping into the room with a plate of food. "I had to remove it to treat your injuries." Seriya's eyes narrowed. "Touch me again and I'll kill you." He didn't flinch. "You can try, but you need food first." He placed the plate beside her and stepped back. She stared at meat, bread, a hot drink. Her body told her to eat, but her pride refused. She turned her face away. "I didn't poison it," he said softly. "Eat or don't. That's your choice." Then he walked away. Seriya waited. Minutes passed. Her stomach growled loudly. She cursed herself and finally picked up the food. The taste was simple, but it warmed her from the inside. She hated how good it felt. She finished everything, then leaned back, staring at the wooden ceiling. Who was this man? His name was Ray. He lived alone in the mountains. No family, no neighbors, just him, the trees, and his tools. He found her while hunting and carried her 2 miles to his cabin. He had no idea who she was, or what she was, but he saved her anyway. Why? Seriya watched him work outside the window. He chopped wood, fixed broken wires, and even built a small solar panel. He was clearly not a soldier, not even a scientist, just a man, a kind man. Days passed. Her body healed slowly, but her mind grew restless. She didn't trust this place. She didn't trust his smile. She didn't trust how her heart beat a little faster when he laughed. These feelings, what were they? One night, a storm raged outside. Lightning lit up the cabin. Thunder shook the walls. Seriya couldn't sleep. She stood near the window, staring into the dark forest. Ray entered the room with a blanket. "It's going to be a cold night," he said. "You should stay warm." "I don't need help," she snapped. "I never said you did," he replied, gently placing the blanket near her. He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. "Why are you helping me?" Ray looked back. "Because someone should. That's enough, isn't it?" She didn't answer. Her chest felt tight. Her body burned in a way she didn't understand. When he left, she sat down with the blanket over her shoulders. For the first time in her life, she felt something strange. Not fear, Not anger, not duty, but something warm, something dangerous, something human. The human who healed. Her Seriya opened her eyes again to find soft sunlight coming through the window. Her body was sore but no longer screaming with pain. The cabin was silent except for the crackling fire. She tried to sit up but groaned as her leg reminded her of the damage. And then she saw him again, the human, sitting near the fire, fixing what looked like a broken lamp. He noticed her watching but didn't rush to speak. He simply gave a small nod and returned to his work. Seriya hated this, not the pain but the silence, the peace. It was unnatural. She was used to commands, to the roar of ships, the weight of her weapons. But here, there was nothing except the sound of wood snapping and the gentle hum of life. "You should rest more," Ray said without looking up. "Your leg's still bad." "I didn't ask for your help," she replied, her voice sharp. "I didn't wait for you to ask." That quiet confidence, not pride, not arrogance, just simple truth. Seriya didn't know how to respond. She had been raised to believe humans were simple, weak beings. Yet here was one who had risked his life to carry a stranger home. An alien, stranger with sharp claws and a sharp tongue. Later, when he brought her more food, she pushed the plate away. "Why do you keep feeding me?" "Because you're alive," he answered, "and I'd like to keep it that way." "I could kill you. You already would have." The words landed heavily. It was true. If she'd really meant to kill him, he would be dead. But something inside her had held back. Something strange and soft. That night she watched him as he cleaned the table, fixed the wall, and even boiled water for her wounds. He never asked her name, never asked what she was doing here. He didn't demand anything, and that confused her. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" she asked suddenly. He looked at her, quiet for a moment. "Should I be?" "I'm a Varnari," she said proudly. "We conquered 3 systems before your kind even left your moon." Ray raised an eyebrow. "Impressive. But right now you're just someone with a broken leg." She turned her face, unable to meet his eyes. Why was he doing this? What did he want from her? The next day she tried to crawl outside. She couldn't stay trapped like some weak creature. But her leg gave out and she fell near the door. Before she could drag herself up, strong arms lifted her again. Ray didn't scold her, he didn't laugh. He just helped her back onto the bed. "You're stubborn," he said. "But stubborn isn't always strong. Don't speak like you." "Know me," she snapped. "I don't," he said softly. "But I'd like to." That night she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept going back to his voice, his eyes, the calmness in his hands. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't powerful, but somehow he felt stronger than anyone she'd met. He was human, and yet, he wasn't what she expected. Days passed. Seriya started asking questions. "What do you eat? What is that song you hum? Why do you live alone?" Ray answered everything without hesitation. He never asked anything in return, and that made her chest feel tight again. One evening, as the fire glowed and silence filled the room, Seriya stared at him and asked the question that had been haunting her. "Why are you helping me?" "Really?" He leaned back in his chair and looked at her seriously. "Because I've seen too many things die in these woods. I didn't want to see one more." A strange heat filled her face. She looked away. "I'm not something that needs saving," she whispered. "Maybe not. But even strong people get tired. Even warriors fall." Seriya didn't reply. She couldn't, because for the first time in her life, she didn't want to fight. She just wanted to understand this human, who healed her without reason, and why, when he smiled, her heart beat a little too fast. "Why is my heart beating so fast?" Seriya stood near the window, her hand resting lightly on the frame, eyes scanning the quiet forest outside. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting golden light across the cabin floor. Her wounds were healing fast, too fast maybe. Not because of medicine or her alien body's strength, but because of peace. And that scared her more than any battle she had ever fought. She had faced plasma storms, assassins, and beasts on the edge of space. But this calm, quiet life with a human was dangerous in a way she didn't understand. Inside the cabin, Ray hummed a soft tune while working on a broken heater. It was an old Earth melody, gentle and warm. Seriya didn't know the meaning, but each note echoed in her chest like a strange memory she never had. Her eyes followed him as he moved. Strong arms, steady hands, focused eyes. There was no fear in him, no need to control, no interest in power, just peace. She hated that. She liked it. Later, when he passed her a cup of hot tea, their fingers touched. Just for a moment, but it was enough. Something electric pulsed through her arm and straight into her chest. Her breath caught. Her heart, usually calm and precise, jumped wildly. She pulled her hand back. "What is this?" she whispered to herself. Ray didn't notice her reaction, or maybe he did but said nothing. He just went back to repairing wires with a calm smile. Seriya sat down slowly, her chest still tight. This had never happened before. Varnari warriors were trained to resist all weakness, including the bond heat, a dangerous emotional state that made warriors lose control. It was only triggered by extreme connection or attraction. She had always believed she was immune. But now, her body betrayed her. Every time Ray looked at her with those gentle eyes, her pulse quickened. When he laughed softly at her serious questions, her stomach fluttered. When he offered her comfort, she wanted to step closer instead of pushing him away. She slammed her fist on the wooden table. "No, this is not happening. I'm a soldier." The cabin door creaked open. Ray peeked in, holding a piece of fruit. "You okay?" She nodded quickly, hiding her hand. "Just, practicing strength recovery." He smiled. "Looks like your strength's coming back just fine." He placed the fruit on the table and turned to leave, but Seriya couldn't stop herself. "Why do you smile at me?" she asked suddenly. He paused, then turned back. "Because you're alive. That's something to smile about." Seriya looked away. She couldn't understand him. His kindness wasn't fake. His eyes held no lies. He had every reason to fear her, yet he didn't. He had every reason to expect nothing from her, yet he still gave. That night, Seriya couldn't sleep. Her body felt warm, but not from fever. She paced the floor, heart pounding like a war drum. She looked at Ray sleeping peacefully on the couch across the room. His chest rose and fell slowly, his face calm. Her hand moved to her own chest. "Why is my heart beating so fast?" She sat down and closed her eyes, breathing deeply. But no matter how much she tried to control it, the feeling remained. Something was changing inside her, something she could no longer ignore. And she knew. It had everything to do with the human who had shown her kindness, without question. This was not just healing. This was the beginning of something far more dangerous. The first touch that changed everything. The storm rolled in without warning. Dark clouds covered the sky like a heavy curtain. Rain slammed against the cabin roof and wind howled through the trees like a wild beast. Lightning flashed again and again, each strike lighting up the walls with sharp white light. The air turned cold fast, too fast for Seriya's recovering body. The heater groaned and gave a dying click, then silence. Seriya sat on her bed, her jaw tight. Her skin was already starting to feel the chill, and her alien blood didn't handle cold well in recovery. She tried to stand but winced, her legs still weak. She reached for a nearby cloth to cover herself. That's when Ray rushed in, dripping, wet, holding wires and tools. "Heater's fried," he said. "Lightning must have hit the lines outside." She looked at him, his shirt soaked, hair wet, eyes determined. She didn't say anything, but her body trembled slightly. He noticed. "You're freezing." "I'm fine," she lied. "No, you're not," he replied, walking over to the drawer and pulling out a large wool blanket. He brought it to her, then paused. "Can I?" She hesitated. 1,000 warnings from her training echoed in her head. Never show weakness. Never allow touch. Never accept help from outsiders. But her body was already shivering hard, and her pride couldn't warm her. She gave a small nod. Ray wrapped the blanket around her shoulders gently. His hands brushed her arms as he tucked it in, and in that moment, it happened. Her entire body went still. Her breath hitched. Her skin burned where he touched her, not from fever, but from something else, something ancient, something powerful. Her eyes locked on his, and for the first time since her crash, she felt completely vulnerable, yet safe. Ray didn't seem to notice the storm inside her. He just smiled softly and said, "Better?" She opened her mouth to reply, but her voice didn't come. She only gave a slight nod. Ray pulled a chair close and sat down beside her, rubbing his hands together near the small fire. This should pass by morning. But Seriya wasn't listening to the storm anymore. She was listening to the sound of his breathing, the steady rhythm of his heart. The strange heat rising inside her refused to leave. She pulled the blanket tighter, trying to hide her trembling. "What's happening to me? It's happening to..." she whispered under her breath. Ray looked over. "Did you say something?" She shook her head quickly. No, but she had. She had said it loud enough. For herself. The truth couldn't be denied anymore. That one gentle touch had done more damage to her defenses than any enemy blade. And her body, her instincts, they were changing. Seriya couldn't sleep that night. She stared at the ceiling for hours, her heart pounding. Every sound he made kept her awake. Every memory of his, hand brushing her skin, played over and over. The bond heat, it was real. And it was beginning. Varnari warriors feared it for good reason. Once it began, there was no way to stop it. Only deep emotional rejection, or surrender, could calm it. And right now, Seriya didn't want either. She wanted to feel it grow. She had been a weapon all her life. Now she was starting to feel like something more. A woman, a heart, a soul waking up. All because of a single touch from a human. I was not supposed to feel this. The sun rose slowly after the storm, but the world felt different, quieter, heavier. The sky was clear, the trees still, but inside the cabin something had shifted between them. Seriya sat at the edge of her bed, staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Her skin still remembered the warmth of Ray's touch. No wound had ever shaken her this deeply. She clenched her fists. This isn't real. It's weakness. It's the bond heat. Nothing more. But she was lying to herself, and she knew it. Ray entered the room holding a cup of tea. "You slept at all?" "No." He handed her the cup, his fingers brushing hers again. Another spark, another shiver. She tried to keep her breathing calm, but her heart betrayed her, racing like a trapped bird. "Seriya," he said gently. "Are you okay?" She looked at him. Something in her broke? "No, I'm not," she whispered. "Something's wrong with me. I wasn't supposed to feel this." Ray sat beside her, confused but listening. "What do you mean?" "I'm a Varnari warrior. We're trained to block emotions, to never feel them, especially not this." Her voice trembled. "But since I met you, something's changing. My body, my thoughts. It's like I'm burning from the inside." Ray stayed silent, giving her space. She stood up slowly, limping toward the window. "We have a condition. We call it bond heat. It only happens when we feel deep connection. When instinct chooses someone, it's rare and dangerous." Ray stepped forward. "And you think this is happening? Because of me?" She turned sharply, eyes fierce but full of confusion. "I don't think... I know, my instincts react to you, my body responds to you, and it's getting stronger." He looked into her eyes without fear. "I didn't do anything to make this happen. That's what makes it worse," she snapped. "You didn't try, you didn't manipulate, you were just... kind." Her voice broke. "All my life I was told to be cold, to be sharp, to survive. I was proud of feeling nothing, but now I wake up thinking about your voice. My heart races when you walk near me. My body burns when you touch me. Ray stepped closer but didn't reach out. Seriya, you're allowed to feel. That doesn't make you weak. She laughed bitterly. You don't understand. If my people find out, they'll say I've fallen, that I've been corrupted by a human. Then let them talk, he said softly. You're not a machine. You're a person. And if this is what's real, maybe it's worth feeling. She looked at him, tears gathering in her eyes. Not from sadness, from fear. I don't know who I am anymore, she whispered, and that terrifies me. Ray finally stepped closer and gently took her hand. You're someone who survived, someone who's healing, and maybe someone who's learning what it means to be alive. Seriya didn't pull her hand away. For the first time, she didn't want to. And as the sun filled the cabin with warmth, she realized something deeper than instinct was pulling her toward him now. Something no training could erase. She wasn't just reacting, she was choosing. I want you, human. That evening, Seriya sat near the fire, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The light flickered across her face, casting shadows that danced like ghosts of her old self. The warrior inside her was quiet now, watching from deep within as something far more fragile took control. She heard his footsteps behind her, steady, calm, and familiar. Ray walked in carrying a fresh pot of tea, setting it beside her without a word. He didn't ask questions. He didn't press her. And that was the hardest part. He gave her space, when all she wanted now was to be close. I keep trying to push it down, she said suddenly, not looking at him. The feeling, the heat inside me, but it won't stop. Ray sat beside her, waiting. I've faced weapons drawn to my head. I've walked through fire without fear, but you, she turned to face him, you undo me with just a look. Ray's expression was still, but something in his eyes flickered. Seriya, I don't want to fight it anymore, she said softly. I can't fight it anymore. She leaned in closer. Her breathing shook. Her voice lowered to almost a whisper. My body was built for war, but now it burns for something else. It wants warmth. It wants touch. It wants you. Ray's eyes widened slightly, but he didn't pull back. Are you sure? She nodded. This isn't just bond heat anymore. It's not instinct. It's choice. I choose you. He placed his hand gently over hers. This time she didn't flinch or tremble. Her heart still raced, but it wasn't panic. It was desire rising. From somewhere deeper than anything she'd ever known, slowly, he reached up and brushed a strand of silver hair from her cheek. You don't have to prove anything. Not to me. Not to anyone. I'm not proving anything, she whispered. I'm just finally living. Their lips met. Soft, at first unsure, like two storms finally meeting in silence. Then stronger. Her arms wrapped around him and the fire inside her roared to life. Her alien senses burned with feeling, colors brighter, sounds clearer, the world sharper. This was more than just a kiss. It was the breaking of chains she didn't even know still held her. She had fallen, but not in weakness. She had fallen into something terrifying, beautiful, and real. And as Ray pulled her closer, Seriya let herself be held, not as a warrior, not as a survivor, but as a woman who had finally chosen love. Outside, the night wind howled across the forest. Inside, a new fire had started, and it would never go out. No. Choose you over my people. The morning light filtered gently through the window, casting gold across the wooden floor. Seriya stood in silence, her back to Ray, staring into the woods beyond the cabin. The storm inside her had quieted, replaced by something steadier. Peace. But peace, she now understood, always comes with a price. She had chosen Ray. Her body, her instincts, and finally, her heart. But the world she came from would never allow this. The Varnari did not forgive such choices, and they had found her. The moment came with a distant hum, a vibration in the earth, a low thunder across the sky. Seriya closed her eyes. They're here. Ray stood from the table, watching her carefully. Your people? She nodded. A Varnari scout ship. They've tracked my signal. They've come to retrieve me. Will they let you go? No, she whispered. To them I'm now tainted. Emotionally compromised, they'll see me as damaged, unfit to return. Ray stepped beside her. Then don't go. Seriya turned to him slowly. You don't understand. They'll not just try to take me, they'll try to kill you too. I'm not afraid, he said. She touched his face, eyes soft. That's what scares me. Moments later, the sky opened. The ship descended like a silent predator, sleek and black. 3 armored warriors emerged, weapons in hand, eyes cold like hers once were. The leader stepped forward and barked a command in the Varnari tongue. Seriya walked toward them. Ray tried to follow, but she stopped him with a glance. This was her moment. You've broken code, the warrior hissed. You bonded with a lesser species. I didn't break, she said calmly. I awoke. You've forgotten who you are. No, she said, stepping forward. I finally know who I am, and I choose him. Gasps rippled through the warriors. You'd betray your blood for a human? I'm not betraying my blood, she said. I'm saving my soul. The leader raised his weapon. Then you will die as one of them. Before the trigger was pulled, Seriya struck. A blur of motion, faster than her pain, sharper than her doubt. She disarmed him, flipped him to the ground, and held her claws at his throat. The other 2 didn't move. I'm not asking for permission, she said. I'm telling you I'm not going back. She released the leader, stood tall, and turned her back on them all, something no Varnari had ever done and lived. Back at the cabin, Ray stood waiting, his hand over his heart like a quiet promise. Seriya walked into his arms without hesitation. That night, under a sky filled with stars, Seriya stood by the fire, her hand in his. I lost a planet, she said, but I found a home. Ray looked at her. Was it worth it? She smiled. You were worth everything. And in that moment, the warrior who once knew only war finally found peace, in the arms of the one she was never supposed to love.